we doing today?
Talking about sports.
Today we're going to discuss one of the craziest trades that shocked the NFL world, in which four-time Pro Bowler wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins of the Texans was traded to the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for running back David Johnson, a 2020 second-round pick, and a 2021 fourth-round pick. All right, Ethan, I'm going to start with you. Will Bill O'Brien trading away Hopkins, which team will perform better next season, the Texans or the Cardinals?
I think we could all take one straight opinion and all agree on one thing, that Bill O'Brien was on something when he made this trade. The thing that they said, Sports Radio 610 actually did a direct interview with him, and they got a quote saying, this is what O'Brien said about the trade. He said he had 3 years left on his deal, and he wanted a raise, and we couldn't go that direction. We felt like we had an excellent deal with Arizona. Those are his exact words when he came on the radio. Just because Hopkins, the best player in the league who deserves more money, wanted a raise in his contract, it should have been well-deserved, but I don't know what O'Brien was on. I mean, literally, he's 99 overall in Madden. He's one of the best hands in the league. They call him Nuke for a reason, and you're telling me you're just going to get rid of him for David Johnson and a few picks? They couldn't even get a first-rounder for DeAndre Hopkins, which is just amazing to me, or just bewilders me how he couldn't do that. But giving away that much, or just getting David Johnson for that, and then Arizona putting him in the new high-powered offense that they have, and just getting Hopkins to add on to that entire offense just only makes them better. And that's why I think Arizona is going to obviously have a way better team, or way better job with Hopkins than whatever the heck Bill O'Brien got for Hopkins.
I think that I'll answer your question first, Luca, with who will be better, the Texans or the Cardinals. The Texans just threw away their entire franchise, so I'm going to say Arizona. They have built a really strong offense there. They have an up-and-coming running back in Kenyon Drake. They got an up-and-coming quarterback in Kyler Murray, and the best receiver in the NFL in DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I think the concern is that their defense is very weak. So the Cardinals are going to have some issues making playoffs, but in terms of who's better, they'll be better. As for the Texans, I feel as though they have a lot of weaknesses that they cannot solve now. Lack of receivers, lack of strong running game, because they get Lamar and Johnson. Duke Johnson. Oh, yeah, right. Lamar Miller, Duke Johnson, and David Johnson are all very solid running backs, but I don't know what kind of effect they'll have on some of the best defensive lines in the game. And defensively, they're just an okay team. They won't be enough to do anything really in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have really good points. Ethan, Bill O'Brien, I think he actually did say that. That's absolutely blasphemous that he said that, because you just traded away a wide receiver in his prime for basically a messed up contract and not even a first-round pick. So there you go. I'll start with the Texans. Starting next season, I expect absolutely nothing positive from them whatsoever. Yes, they got Kenny Stills, they got Will Fuller, and those guys can play, and we get that, right? Deshaun Watson still has them available to those weapons. But the thing that I don't get, how is Bill O'Brien still the GM in Houston when he got less for Hopkins when the Giants actually got more for Odell Beckham Jr.? That's what I don't get. So when you look at Hopkins, arguably probably the best hands in football, he was targeted by Watson about 150 times for 195 passes. That's pretty good. And last season, he performed really well, about 3,800 yards, he completed 67% of his passes, 26 touchdowns with 12 interceptions. And remember, they won the AFC South with a 10-6 record. They beat Buffalo in that wild card where Deshaun Watson pulled out some magic. And they lost to Kansas City in the divisional playoffs. Now, what I'll say about that is I am definitely concerned about the Texans' defense next season. What happened in the KC game, I think they let up like 35 points in that second half. But they choked. Yes, they did. But let me get to this point. Yeah, let me get to this point, though. Yes, the Cardinals will be a better team. Now, Kyler Murray, I was very surprised how well he performed last year, even though they were only 5-10-1 last year. I mean, he completed 64% of his passes, about 3,700 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But you got to remember something about their offense. Yeah, they had a 16th ranked offense and all, but they had Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, and then this other guy named Edmonds. That's not exactly lighting it off, okay? Now you're inserting a piece in DeAndre Hopkins. This team will be way better. They have Kenyon Drake as their all-starting running back, like Matt told us. Do I think they'll make the playoffs? No, but I think they will have a better shot of getting a better record next season.
Yeah, and going
May I
along
add something real quick?
Yes, before you can add something.
All right. I think the Cardinals, with there now being 7 spots in the playoffs, which we'll discuss in a little bit, I think that the Cardinals do have a chance. I don't think they'll make it, but depending on how the NFC trickles and how the NFC East, let's see if the Cowboys choke again. The Cardinals can definitely get a chance if they can build their defense just a little bit more. I think they have a chance.
Yeah, and then going back to DeAndre Hopkins and how you were talking about how much of a piece he was to this offense of Houston. He literally had 1,065 yards, and that's as a team, the Texans had 4,000 yards. He had more than a fourth of the entire team's receiving yards by himself, and getting rid of that is literally your entire offense at this point. Now they're going to have to go find – I mean, their leading receiver right now is Kenny Stills. The last time Kenny Stills was the number 1 wide receiver was when he was in Miami during their down years. Now he's going to be stuck here in these down years of the Texans. And I know other people are going to be saying, oh, Will Fuller is going to be their next new wide receiver. Well, Will Fuller can't survive 2 weeks in a row during the season. He's constantly injured, and he was injured the entire season last season. Fantasy-wise, he was a struggle for anyone trying to pick him up on that waiver wire, because the waiver wire people always kept telling you pick him up. He's going to be coming back. 2 weeks later, you pick him up, screws you over, and gets knocked out on a knee injury or an ankle injury, which he was bothering with the entire time. But going back to Hopkins, I mean, getting rid of your best player for pocket change and just nothing, and then having your coach and the GM saying it was an excellent deal. An excellent deal. In what world is an excellent deal getting rid of your franchise player, the number 1 player, someone you never should change, and someone that your fan base of entire Houston believes in? Just get rid of him for you couldn't even get a first-round pick. Stephon Diggs the Bills or the Vikings got a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs, and he's Stephon Diggs. He's a good wide receiver, but he's not Hopkins level. And Hopkins, they only got a second-round pick in an old aging running back who's not or lost all his potential. He was supposed to be one of the best running backs in the league. I mean, if Bill O'Brien was looking at articles 3 years ago, I mean, maybe that's probably why he accepted it, because that's when David Johnson was in his prime. But after he messed up his wrist, David Johnson has never been the same. And I don't know what Bill O'Brien is thinking. I mean, it's just a bad deal. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, come on. You just screwed the Texans season, and now they're going to be stuck in Tankville for the next 2-3 years at least.
Yeah, Ethan, you bring up a lot of good points there about not Kenny Stills. Was it Will Fuller or Kenny Stills you say cannot stay?
It's Kenny Stills and Will Fuller, both their wide receivers. I say Kenny Stills is going to be the number 1 wide receiver just because he plays in the slot, and Sean Watson really plays more in the slot. That's where Hopkins used to play, right?
Yeah.
Was he a wide? He was in the slot? Okay.
You're right.
That's so now that
you bring a lot of good points there, definitely, about the injuries occurring and all that. They don't have a chance whatsoever next season. It's going to be a disaster. And
unless Randall Cobb returns to Green Bay for him.
Oh, I forgot Randall Cobb. They replaced him with Hopkins with Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's Cobb won't have an impact.
That's not a replacement.
Yeah.
No.
Remember, Randall Cobb was on the Cowboys last year, and no one he was on the Cowboys. Yeah,
no one knew he was there. Nobody knew he was even there.
So, I mean, once you get Randall Cobb in there, he has the Dallas boys failure on him, so they may fail again. Who knows? And now I talk about Deshaun Watson. I'm going to talk a little bit about him because, he just lost one of his best receivers. One of his best friends on Instagram is posting pictures about him when he heard about the trade and all. If I were Deshaun Watson, I would walk into Bill O'Brien's office and I would tell him, I want out, because he has no chance of success now. None. And if I were him, and I wish the Bears would have gotten him for the number 2 pick, we know what all happened with that. But I feel bad for Deshaun Watson. I think he should get better, and he should ask for out of Houston.
I agree. I think that, as we'll talk about in a second, I think the Patriots would literally be, the perfect fit. They need somebody who can replace.
Oh, no.
Yes. I think that if there's one perfect fit for Deshaun Watson, it's at a team that seems to be, I don't know, definitely on their way downhill. And so I think putting him in a better situation where at least their GM is not very stupid.
Hold on a second. You're telling me Deshaun Watson should go to the New England Patriots. Okay. You're telling me that the New England Patriots have more weapons than the Houston Texans.
I'm not saying that, but their defense, yes, they've lost a couple of pieces, but they still have Stephon Gilmore, one of the best, if not the best corners in the league. They still have an elite defensive line, and I think that the Patriots will, and their special teams, never forget about their special teams. Okay. The Patriots, with Bill Belichick there, are still a team that will make the playoffs this year, whether you like to believe it or not. They will. And Deshaun Watson can definitely help the Patriots get at least 10 wins, get somewhere where they can be a respectable team in the AFC, maybe not a championship contender, but a respectable team nonetheless.
I mean, you don't have a bad point there. It's just that the thing is, the defense is very good. They were ranked number 1 overall last year. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
He went 12-4 under Tom Brady. He was compromised of weapons. The thing I worry about Deshaun Watson is he only has Edelman. I mean, the other guys, Lacassie, Dorsett, Myers, all those guys, who are they? And they can never get open. So that's the thing I worry about Deshaun Watson. Otherwise, you would have a really valid point right there.
The only difference is Deshaun Watson could give more time because he could get out of the pressure. He could escape all the pressure compared to Brady, who sits down and he doesn't want to move. But they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. But we'll get to that later, more towards when we start actually talking about New England. But I think, Deshaun Watson, if he gets there, he probably would. It's a better situation for him to get into. If he were going to go to any team, that's the only team really looking for a quarterback. Like a starting quarterback, really, it still is willing to trade for one too. I think in the league, maybe the Chargers, but they said they wanted Tyrod Taylor, so and they look like they're going to be sticking with him. So I think that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we get back to DeAndre Hopkins for a moment here. With him going to Arizona right now, do you guys see them getting in the playoff hunt? Do you see them making the playoffs? What do you see exactly with the addition of him?
I'll take this one real quick. I think that Arizona, not this year, but next year, will be a playoff team. I think give them a year to get a feel for Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, get that duo working strong, maybe draft a defensive guy, and then next year they'll be a legitimate threat in the NFC.
Yeah, and I don't know. If Arizona is going to look to get that one guy, they're going to have to either get it through free agency or through the draft, like Matt said. This year is not the year to push for the playoffs and give it everything they got. If I were them, they have way too much young talent besides losing Larry Fitz, who probably is on his last year. Everyone else on that team, if they really want to push for have a real chance for the Super Bowl, I think they have to wait at least 1 or 2 more years and build up their team before they try and push for the next step, which would be towards the playoffs and eventually the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you bring a good point there. Their defense is, just like you both said, they're not very good. I think they rank the bottom of the league. I saw multiple occasions last year. I'm not a Cardinal fan, but I watched a couple of their games when they played I think they played the Rams at the time. I felt bad for Kyler Murray because he was making some really clutch passes. He was scoring some touchdowns, and then the defense just gave it up in a couple of drives. So in order for Arizona to thrive, that defense needs to wake up. They got to add a couple of pieces, and I think they'll be good in the near future.
I agree, and somebody that they might want to add, if they have the money this year, I think we discussed this last episode, Ethan, Jadeveon Clowney. Still out there waiting for a team to sign him. He's looking for about $17 million a year, which is a little too much. But if they want a guy that they can sign, make some immediate defensive adjustments, then Clowney's the guy.
Yep. Clowney is one of the better defensive ends in the league, and wherever he goes, he's going to be bringing the game plan because no matter where he is, they usually have 1 or 2 linemen already, the eyes go towards him no matter what defense he's on. Seattle, they were always double-teaming him, just like how you saw Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack had a down year, but they were even at some points triple-teaming him. So, defensive ends that have that much, respect for all these defenses get more offensive linemen, and that'll lead for these younger guys that may not have a bigger name to have an opportunity to step up and get those sacks. Just like, once again, with the Bears defense, I mean, Khalil Mack was getting triple team. That means the rest of the defensive ends had great years. So the young guys were able to, like Roquan Smith and the linebackers, able to get a bunch of sacks and a bunch of tackles with ease, because when you're triple teaming a guy, it's pretty hard for the rest of the guys to get one-on-one blocks every single time and to win every single time. So bringing a guy like him and getting like the top-notch star defensive ends is big in this NFL, because wherever you go, they're going to be double teaming him, maybe even triple teaming him. I don't know at his age if he really has that much steam left in him, but I think wherever he goes, they're going to he helps the defense around him and improves them. So that's why he really would fit. And other than anyone, I don't really think there really is anyone else defensive end wise or defensive front wise that's still really available. So I think the only guy left would be for Arizona to go after Jadeveon Clowney.